Glad that worked.
Yeah, that worked perfect. Thank you, Lynn. I'm just still jumping on the towns one, so it's not paid for. So it's still the free trial at the moment. So
So
I'll talk to Joyce a
that
little bit more about it.
you're gonna want to talk to Joyce because it should be you have a full version.
Yeah, I'll talk. I'll mention it to Joyce when she's in next, and I'll shoot
Yeah.
her an email just to talk to her too about it. So
There's no hour-long meetings in Park
I
and
think
Rec.
when you schedule the meetings, you have a choice of time limits. Even
this one
though
was
it's,
scheduled for an hour.
yeah, so
For
I
some reason, it
usually
didn't.
scheduled it for 2, or if I thought it was gonna be, you know.
I'll schedule it
So,
longer, especially the next few when we put them on the agenda and get them sent out. And we'll go ahead and schedule them for longer. I think we're just waiting for a few more to come back.
we need John to come back.
Naomi and Karen.
Yep.
Right.
Here's John coming in.
Um,
And then we had Karen, which disappeared.
Now here she comes.
okay, there's John. Kate might not make it. She's in Australia.
Oh, gotcha.
She sent a chat saying she was having to leave.
Yeah. And then Naomi. Okay.
Perfect. And I think there's just Mimi Quorum.
Yeah, we're good now.
We're good.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty. So let's pick up where we left off. Which again, thank you all for your patience in working with me on this.
I was gonna suggest 2020, we might possibly say the year of COVID.
Yeah.
Everything got disrupted.
Yeah, although there was, if I remember correctly, there was concerts. We managed to have concerts, I think.
Yeah, but it was sort of an off year.
Yeah, I agree. There's probably year of COVID makes sense to put it in there.
I don't know if I would just limit it though to 2020 because I think that it spilled in, it impacted what we were able to do in 2021.
Or COVID impact began.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that sort of, you know, we can explain that.
Yeah, that's still.
But that at least has something in that column. But I think a lot of the numbers were down. A lot of people didn't necessarily come back right away. So those are good ideas. What else?
Yeah, let's keep moving through this presentation.
Yeah. So to pick up where I left off, this was here we go. We got Naomi joining us. All right, so to pick up where I last left off with the slide, just one thing I do want to touch on, it is an increase in how much we're asking for expenses for the department. So we're going from a $42,000 23 fiscal year amount to asking for a $65,800 amount. Now, this amount does include park maintenance. It doesn't include the sports camp aides, the Camp Kent aides, and the 2 ASP aides. So in this circle, we reduced it from 5. I know that in the past, one thing maybe we can make an adjustment to, Abigail, is maybe adding that fifth gray circle just to exemplify the 2 ASP aides.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that. So that's one thing, in a moment we can go backtrack to and add, but just to make mental note of that. All right, so to move on to the next slide.
Wait,
Yeah,
wait,
no,
are
no,
you
no, the
saying
count-
that,
Yeah,
the
no, it's
count-
already there.
Count's right, the count's
It's
right,
already there.
yeah.
Oh,
We have
thank you.
two-
Yes,
you got
you're right.
4
I-
circles.
Oh, one at a
Yeah.
time.
I'm staring at one thing and it looks green, so I deeply apologize. You're right. There are 4,
Oh,
and
it's okay.
the
Sorry.
Ed is our maintenance staff is up top on the right,
Yeah.
underneath BOS, and has an arrow from me.
I understand what you're saying about a contracted maintenance, but I think it's a little weird to call him staff. He's not staff. He's a contracted service. And I think that might be a little bit confusing because it makes it sound like we've now hired maintenance staff.
Okay.
Well, the purpose of this is to demonstrate, is to illustrate how many individuals the director is overseeing. And how
Supervisor.
many individuals are part of what it takes to run the department. And so whether it's staff or contractor, it's a person that the director oversees. So how do we get beyond that,
But
the stickiness?
the director needs to oversee any kind of contractor that we hire, right? Like
Yes.
the turf management, that could be multiple people that are dealing with the turf on the playing fields.
I don't see it as that that's a staff person. I just see that that's what the director is going to have to oversee. You know what I mean? To make sure it's done correctly, to whatever.
So to jump on that too, Karen, in the job description that I received in the mail, it does outline the following people. Direct reports include but are not limited to after school program director, head lifeguard and other lifeguards, program aides, instructors and monitors, Camp Kent director, coaches, referees and umpires, and park maintenance staff. So to my understanding, that would be park maintenance staff.
Yeah,
based on
that's
the
how
job
I see
description,
it.
But
We don't have staff.
we don't have lifeguards at the moment
Um,
either, so.
Well, at one point we did have lifeguards, though.
Yes,
When we
yes,
were running
yeah.
Camp Kent at Emery Park, we had
Yes.
lifeguards.
Right, but we don't have to say staff. I don't think it's who is he overseeing? That's
Park
how I
maintenance.
look at it.
Yeah, that's,
This
I guess
says-
by calling him park maintenance staff, that's where I'm having the issue, because that's not accurate.
Where does it say park maintenance staff? Is that just in the voiceover?
Can you go back to the previous,
So we'll just
because that's like
just
part-time
call it
roles.
park maintenance.
Part-time
It just says
roles.
park maintenance.
They're making, this slide here makes it sound like we have park maintenance staff, part-time roles. That's like people. It's just, you're gonna have to be careful about how you present that.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying is don't try to say that we have park maintenance staff.
Abigail, would it be Blythe, would it be worthwhile putting in, instead of just saying park maintenance? That would be park maintenance, contractors and
Supervision.
Yep.
Park is contract supervision.
Okay,
That's
so then if we do that, we would want to adjust those numbers down below then, correct? Abigail?
No, I think we have to just like, if we start screwing with the numbers at this point, the night before we're doing it, that's gonna blow this whole thing up. So what we
You're
need to
misleading the
really
public,
looking
though.
What we are
Ed
including in this number
specifically.
is the
which is-
number for Ed, who is a part-time park maintenance contractor. It's the number, it's the amount of money we're paying for him that's included in how we're talking about what is a part of the current operating structure. Because that's a regular cost. It's not a one-time cost. It's not, a one-time contractor coming in to do one thing. It's not a staff position, but it is a regularly occurring cost that we have. And it's a regularly occurring human being that the director has to supervise.
It's
But-
actually more like what he's doing for us is more like a part-time staff person.
But we could hire a different contractor and they would have multiple people. It wouldn't just be one
Sure.
person.
But it's the
Which we
role
do. I
of
mean, there are
park
other,
maintenance.
It doesn't say one person, it just says park maintenance.
I
So
know, but I'm
however you
just,
get it,
the words that you use are important here. I understand what it says here, but the words that you verbally say are important as you're presenting this. And I really don't see why you would want to inflate the number, the salary number. You want to have it as low as possible.
That's true, Lynn, and we went back and forth and said, should we include how much it costs to have Ed? And we actually think it's more misleading to not include that number because that's a part of our costs.
But it's
And
not
that
a
is a person-
personnel cost. It's not a personnel
I
cost.
know it's not a
It is
personnel
it is a
cost,
part cost.
but it's somebody that the director has to supervise, and it is a cost that the Parks Department has to pay for. And sure, we can explain it, but we went back and forth and we put both numbers in. And we thought it was truer to include his cost because that is a cost that the department, that's a part of this whole equation. And so, yeah, the numbers are higher. We could even, Matt, if you wanna, I could try to resurrect the slide that we deleted earlier today. Because we had this debate, Lynn, and you know, we can go back. It's just a matter of what we want to make sure that the public understands is how many different components and pieces the director has to oversee, and what are all the pieces that are a part of the model that it takes to operate Park and Rec. And one piece of that is overseeing park maintenance, whether it's 6 guys or 1 guy, it's park maintenance and it's like a part of the job. So we were trying in these slides to both paint a picture of how many different entities and people the director has to oversee. And if we were going to represent Ed or park maintenance, we had to represent it also in the numbers we're showing because that's part of the picture we're painting.
Can we add the word contractor after park maintenance, and would that take care of it?
no, I think.
No.
we
No, it
do-
doesn't.
This is
It-
park maintenance, but maybe
Um,
verbally.
But to Lynn's point, it's a different line item. It's not in the, we have the budget line item that is personnel. And we actually extracted how much we've actually paid for park maintenance and added it because to us, in this argument, in this story we're telling, in this picture we're trying to paint, the complete picture, we thought it was important to add that expense so people had a better sense of the full picture of it's not just it's not just there's all these part-time staff to run programs, but there's also part-time people, contractors for maintenance, and that's another group, another person that the director has to oversee.
So
And I see
should that
someone-
have its own, maybe it just has its own header? Instead of part-time roles, move it out of part-time roles and make another header that is contractors, and put park maintenance underneath that.
And then
And-
to Lynn's
and
point, you will
fields
take that
maintenance is
number and
also
we'll
that.
adjust it so it doesn't reflect Ed's compensation. So that we're showing that the line item of salaries for part-time staff and this new position are the ones that are being discussed for the increase, opposed to saying that Ed's position is included in that, since we're paying it out of a park maintenance line item. So I think that might be an effective way to
Yeah.
do that.
could we take out the word roles and just put part-time?
But that really then sounds like people.
Yeah. So
Oh.
I can see from that point, and Abigail, that's why, and I
So-
apologize, everyone, that's why I'm like making noise. I'm trying to find through the papers, the
No,
numbers.
no,
that I
no.
had when I
So
was talking to
do
Abigail
you
earlier.
mind here, no,
The
here, I
previous,
will.
the number that is in that we gave to the town is $58,713
I'm just gonna
for salary.
just,
in part.
it's not productive to have numbers said right now, just because we have them. Let me just pull them up. And then Lynn, you can validate whether or not it aligns with what your
This is what we approved. This is not mine.
No, I know. I just, we've been working through a lot of iterations of this. And so, again, we're at the 11th hour now and we're presenting it tomorrow. So we're trying to keep this as consistent to the story that we've been working through. Okay, so here is.
I have those numbers if you want, Abigail. I can read them
Yep,
to you.
I'm just gonna put them on this slide.
Sure.
So we've got,
Sure, Naomi.
and I have this one. Okay, so if you go to slide 8, this is what doesn't include Ed. And then the next slide is the numbers we were just showing that includes Ed.
So again, we did a round hole for that slide because we were presenting it. The other one we took away, so we didn't do a round hole at the moment.
Mhm.
But to Lynn's point, and I can see where you're coming from, Lynn, that being a separate line item. So with the budget delineation, we could take that out, and then for the structure and the graphic of that structure, what we could do is that green role can turn into contractors, so we can put in parentheses, park maintenance staff, any other maintenance staff that we hire on, anybody who's doing work on the parks that we bring in, or anybody who's doing contracted maintenance or contractor recreation. That would be directly oversight by me because it's a contractor.
Okay, so I'll put contractors, and for now we know we have one, which is park maintenance. I'm editing slide 5, if you want to
When
see.
we give the discussion tomorrow, what I'll state is the contractors include individuals such as True Green, which is our current contractor for the ball fields and for the soccer fields, Ed Matson, who's our current contractor for parks. And if I am missing any other contractors at the moment. I don't think I am.
I mean, if we were slightly bigger, Lynn, then we would have our own maintenance guy that we said we need the fields mowed today, rather than borrowing from the town garage.
Well, I learned from Rick that there is one guy who's on the town crew who's responsible for mowing.
Right.
And so I would hope that Matt would be able to connect with that town crew member and be able to communicate when there's a need for mowing.
But that hasn't always worked to our advantage in the past,
Right.
from
And that's,
conversations I had with Jared. Because, they were on a certain schedule.
so that needs to be documented. And that will help make a case for hiring somebody for the following year, because I tried to make that case and I was pretty much told it's not going to work for the next year. So, because I was trying to encourage having somebody dedicated to the parks and also to the new cemetery mowing, and that is not going to fly.
Right.
We decided that on Friday.
Okay.
So, but that's the kind of data and the information that the selectmen need to know. It's like, we asked for it 5 times and there were delays and this caused issues or something like that. I'm just
Right.
making that up, but.
Thank you. No, and that's a very valid point.
Yeah.
All right. Shall I continue are you still editing, Abigail?
I'm almost done.
Please take
I'm
your time.
just adjusting the colors back. So I'm just gonna, for the sake of our sanity, and you can delete this stuff later, but I'm just
gonna try to get
deleting.
back.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I've updated the numbers. So the current now takes out park maintenance, but we still talk about it in the org chart. The proposed takes out the number for park maintenance, but it's included in the org chart. And then you have slide 7, are the, the responsibilities and duties of the director, and then what's envisioned for the Park and Rec or proposed for the Park and Rec leader.
Abigail, you still have park maintenance on this one, part-time role.
Sorry, I gotta add another one that talks about contractors. Okay. I wish I could, yeah, it's gonna be annoying. But yep, there you go. Yeah.
I can break it apart if needed into a separate text box and just slide it. I have no problem doing that. I can do some magic with that. I'll do design magic.
Lock this up.
So,
Well, Park and Rec.
so to jump back
Adjusting these
into,
numbers back to the rounded numbers. in
yes,
Slide
thank you
8.
for doing that.
Mhm.
So to jump back in, I'm just going to go to the slideshow on where we're at currently. So Abigail, thank you so much.
Mhm.
So right now where we're
I
at,
believe in this a
um,
lot.
yeah, done a lot. This is a lot, and it's, it's a lot of editing for a good reason.
Mhm.
So it's the best way to look at it. This is just breaking up the current job description of the Park and Rec director. So from what has been, and Lynn, Abigail, Rufus, anybody on the commission, jump in on this one. From what it sounds like, looking back historically on Park and Rec directors that have been in this chair, they have found that to conduct the role successfully, they have found difficulty in being successful because they had too many items to be tasked with, and they had limited to no delegation ability for those tasks, because those tasks were either specifically sensitive for an employee of the town to complete, or they were something that somebody was not able to take on or had the ability to take on, which then limited their scope, and they were tacked with having to complete that task with other competing demands in a fairly timely manner. Yeah. Great. So it's saying that the current role is not sustainable for anybody, and we're asking to break up that role for another full-time person to take it on, so that they can create successful recreation programs, so that now we can focus on both parks and recreation, not just one or the other, not deferring time on one or the other, and having the ability to balance successfully those roles. Any questions on this current slide?
Did you want to include anything about grants, pursuing grants?
Yes.
In the list of director responsibilities. I just did a quick scan, but I know that's something that you're interested in, and I think we should put it out there.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, that's what I was doing tonight before this meeting, was investigating a ton of grants. So
Nice.
a ton.
I'll add it as a bullet.
Thank you.
It's good. The Board of Finance loves grants.
I love grants. So that makes 2 of us. So that's perfect. And then we'll add that in the previous responsibilities too. I'll take
Mhm.
care of that later, Abigail, so don't stress on it.
No, I'll make your life easier. You can do
Thank
it
you.
right now. Yep.
Thank you. All right. Any questions on this slide before I continue to the next? All right, so this next slide is basically putting in perspective the expenses as we have already discussed in the previous slides. So we have the $35,200 that was the current model expense for part-time staff. What we're asking for is approximately a $24,000 increase in the operating expenses for the Park and Rec department, so that we can successfully offer an increase in programs, so we can successfully tackle and successfully attain the goals that we set, so that we can successfully accomplish the jobs that are tasked by the Park and Rec director and by the community and the commission for the Park and Rec director and the department to accomplish, and by the Board of Selectmen in a timely fashion, with exigence and urgence, and to ensure that these things are done and to ensure growth in the programs and growth in the parks. With this ask, it is a bit of a jump. If I'm looking at the numbers correctly, it's a sizable jump. However, it's and Lynn, I think you might be looking at that number for the 0.32 total. And I can happily talk about how I arrived at that number. This is such a small jump in the town's budget for what it would be, a small drop in the bucket. Is it going to be something that will significantly impact the day-to-day operations of the department if we pass this? Absolutely, it'll enhance it and it'll be able to increase what we're doing. Is it something that's going to significantly increase the taxpayers' tax to the town? Not necessarily at the immediacy. However, it's potential and strong potential for a 5-year plan to reduce the taxpayers' amount and to really work on that mill rate and to help reduce that mill rate for the town of Kent. This position isn't just one for growing the department and succeeding the department. It's also to aid and assist the town in providing recreation and park services and also working on that mill rate to reduce it as well. Questions?
So the reason the proposal is that it'll reduce the mill rate because there'll be added revenue, right?
Correct. Yep. So it'll
Okay.
reduce the mill rate because the added revenue will offset the current department's expenses. So if we are able to bring in this person, they're able to offer more programs and bring in more people. Having that revenue increase will pay for their salary, will pay for other part-time staff salary, we'll start paying for my salary, we'll start paying for the costs for expenses for purchasing for certain activities, events, and programs. So once we start taking that gain and we're looking at the number of programs that are possible with the fees that are there, that'll start offsetting the amount that the taxpayer is paying for this department and contributing to this department for expenses and for genuinely expenses. And then also this allows opportunity for grant research to be done and grant applications to be done and tackled. This will then also offset the department's current expenses and will also allow for the opportunity for the department to pursue the remodification of certain things in parks. It'll also allow for us to add into the capital plan and take on some things that we might not need the capital plan money for, and we can reorganize what we're doing so that we're not asking for a significant amount of money in the capital plan. So this isn't just something that's a short-term fix. This is a long-term fix. This is something that will grow for the town and something that the town will grow from. It's a mutual understanding and a mutual benefit for each other. Any questions or anything that might be a buzzword that I said that might be a talking point? All right, next slide. So over the last 2 years, the department has been able to cover approximately 30% of its operating costs with program revenue. Looking at that jump from fiscal year 21-22 to 22-23, which is the one that we have currently been reflecting on, going from 27% to 35% is significant. We emerged from the pandemic and we did have some restrictions in place, and we started to emerge even further. So noticing that growth and that jump in revenue is huge, but also noticing that we had a huge compensation and operations increase. Now, looking at historical figures and seeing why that has increased, we increased programming, we increased things to happen in town because restrictions have been lifted. So therefore, this allowed the opportunity for us to gauge revenue and gain revenue, and allow the opportunity for us to have staff work and have things take place in the community. And having that number present, showing that we went from 29,000 to 65,000 for revenue jump, and then we factored in for the operations cost, the compensation is 35%, which is huge and significant.
And I just like, Lynn, I think that I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, because like we're aware that the revenue from Park and Rec doesn't go back into Park and Rec, it goes into the general fund. But if the revenue was able to go back into Park and Rec, that revenue could cover 30% of its operating costs. So maybe this title, Matt, is a little misleading, and Lynn, I really would love to hear your thoughts. Like, if we, if we were able, like, we're not saying that we are able to directly cover the costs, but based on the revenue, the operating, our revenue offsets 30% of the operating costs. I don't want to be misleading, I guess.
I don't
and
think it's
know-
misleading because the revenue is tracked. And the revenue, and we're giving the information that we've collected about the revenue that we've collected. So, I don't think it's misleading at all. I think this is it
Like-
doesn't, no department gets to hold on to its revenue except for the building department. Everybody goes into the general fund. So it's the same way for every single department. So I don't think it's even worth bringing up. It's just the way it is.
Okay, just like has been able to cover, like, we obviously are able to cover the revenue. It's just that
Oh, I see what you're saying.
it
Well, I
goes
mean,
back into the general fund and
yeah,
you
I
don't
mean,
see it
it's
balance out
offsetting.
in our
It's
books.
offsetting the expenses because it is part of the revenue the town is
So would
counting
you
on.
rather have offset as opposed to cover?
I like that. Yeah.
Would that be okay,
Mhm.
Abigail? Would that?
Yeah, I just know. uh, Just, I know we have always historically talked about our program revenue and where does that go, and trying to incentivize the fact that try to incentivize increasing program revenue, but then there was but it never goes back into Park and Rec. It just goes into the general fund. So what's the benefit of doing that? And like, I think this is just to paint the picture that through our program revenue, we've been able to offset, our costs by 30%, and we should continue growing our programs. It's only a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I thanks. I didn't quite catch that these last few days, but I think offset is better.
I like it. All right.
I also don't think the town expects Park and Rec to cover 100% of its costs.
No, but we just
Yeah.
wanted to show an upswing with the fact that we've increased programs.
Yeah.
And we've done it this fact that we stopped having a park pass.
Right, and we, yeah, I mean, that's important to talk about is how is it we've done. Do you get, and these numbers came from Barbara? Because they don't match exactly the numbers that we submitted.
These were additions because in the compensation operations, that was also including Ed. So that included what we compensated Ed for because that was a contractor role. That wasn't
I
just
mean, the revenue, the program revenues.
program review was from the budget workbook
Okay,
that I have. I can go back and double check those numbers and edit them if needed, but that's what I had on for mine, but I will double check that.
oh, okay, so it's 22. I was looking at the wrong year.
Yeah, we
Okay.
went
okay.
in and talked to Barbara the other day about that, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, great. And then last slide. Also, we have 6 minutes left of this Zoom call, so again, I deeply apologize.
Well, I also want to commend you, Matt. Like, you're like not even a month on the job, and you've just,
In
like
2 years.
you've really picked up on the urgency around this, and you've given this great focus. And I think I'm just really impressed by how well you're speaking to all of this with how quickly we've just been zipping through and building slides. So
Thank
I
you.
think this also shows how logical this argument is because you picked it up really fast.
Yeah, no, and coming from a previous role where I have asked in different occasions for support because the job duties I couldn't delegate out, I've had to strategize and work on ways to present this. And that's something I have a background in. And this is something that when given to me, I jumped right in, was happy to do because it's something I've done before. And I'm happy to, again, levy that argument and really say that it's needed and advocate for it because this is something that is definitely needed for the success of this department and the success of the town and the growth of the town and the department. So adding the recreation leader position to the park will increase programming in town and maintain current programming. It will increase the number of types of programs, number of programs in total, which that's great. We might have 5 swim lesson programs, but that's 1 swim lesson program. Now we can do 3 different types of trail hiking programs or nature programs. So that adds in right there the different types and offerings and the number and scope of those offerings and the frequency of those programs. Now we can say, you know what, let's offer Red Cross CPR classes every single month, at least twice a month. Now we have somebody who's able to do that. We can collect a fee on that, but also now we're providing a social service for the town to educate and certify individuals in CPR. So that's an addition right there. So the frequency of that program would increase significantly. Increase revenue generation and participation, enjoyment with new and continued programs. That would be fantastic to see. Allow for immediate response and continual planning of park maintenance, park care, and development. So this is now saying we push this aside. We need this now. This is something that we can act on immediately because now somebody is going to be in a role that can facilitate more with parks. And we can continually plan for parks. I might just throw in recreation into that slide too to talk about park care and then recreation and park development. And then support program growth. Program growth demands strategic thinking. One person cannot do it all. And the commission, as amazing as you all are, there's only so much we can do in our capacity. So having a second person who can carry out those duties would be a successful way to ensure that these things are done. To support the demand of the town and the needs of the public spaces, we request the approval of the recreation leader position. For everything we have discussed in this slideshow, we strongly feel that this is the next best step. Last year it was presented and it was shown to be a best step. However, the town did vote it down. And we as a department and commission strongly feel that it's definitely something we wanted to revamp and bring back. There are 2 minutes and 50 seconds left of the Zoom call, so I deeply apologize. We will have to join again. But any questions thus far on this current slide that we're on? And Naomi, I apologize that you have to keep calling in from where you are. Just giving you the heads up that I'll end the Zoom call and then you'll have to call back in.
So real quick, we have to vote on this tonight to bring it towards the selectmen. Is that right, Lynn?
Well, I think we could maybe endorse it. The numbers are the same.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it would be a nice gesture if we endorsed the presentation.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'd like to make a motion that we endorse the presentation.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
I
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Again, I want to thank Kate was dropped off. Who knows what she's doing in Australia? Blythe, Abigail, and Matt for the work they did to put this together.
It's an
Thank you.
awesome amount of work. It's wonderful.
And thank you all so far on the commission. It has been a pleasure working with you all and just seeing how creative we all are and how strong we all are. It just really goes to show that we have a lot of those common values and common goals, and we're going to tackle things and get them done. I'm determined. Whether it's, you know, do we get this approved or not, I'm definitely still determined to get things tackled. Yeah. So thank you all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I'm going to end the call and then start up the call again. So please just call back in and we'll go from there. If that sounds good to you, Rufus?
That sounds good, and then we'll deal with, it shouldn't take too much longer for the other 3 items.
Correct. All
Say
right, perfect.
goodbye. And
All right,
thanks
see you all in a
for the
moment.
great
Thank you,
collaboration.
Thank
Abigail.
you, Abigail.
Bye.
Thanks, Abigail.